Hello there everybody, it is me, XfreezerBunny. Welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build, and welcome back to Mount Komorebi for yet another Japanese-inspired speed build. So today we're building our very first venue for this world, our very first community lot. And I am planning to do a couple, but this is an Izakaya build. Welcome to Izakaya Osake Rakuen. That name was actually suggested to me by someone on Twitter, and I put it through Google Translate, and apparently it literally means sake paradise. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better name to call this place. So welcome, irasshaimasen, or as the Japanese would say. Yeah, just so you know, the weebtosity in this video will probably gonna come strong, because you know what, when I was in college I spent a lot of time in izakaya. And by the way, in case you didn't know what the whole irasshaimasen was like, it's basically a welcoming expression that Japanese people would usually say whenever they're welcoming people to their businesses. So in this case, irasshaimasen to another Sims 4 speed build. Yeah. Hopefully that didn't just make you cringe. If it did, I don't apologize. But in this build, we're definitely building one of my favorite community lots because, like I said, I had some fun memories spent in izakaya, especially when I was in college. I spent so much time hanging out at the izakaya not too far from where I live actually. Sadly, that place closed down a while back, but I had so much fun hanging out with friends and eating some really good Japanese food, and hopefully that comes through in this build. There is actually a pre-made izakaya that came with Snowy Escape, and whenever I think of izakaya, I think of a really nice festive atmosphere. It's really crowded, and unfortunately I didn't get that vibe with the pre-made izakaya that came with the game. For some reason it kind of just felt like a normal regular bar that you would see anywhere else in the game, and it also felt really dark, and I feel like they could have done so much more with it, especially with all of the new Japanese items. So I wanted to have a go at it and see what I came up with, and I'm really happy with it. For the exterior, it's very traditional. Basically it's a machiya, or a Japanese townhouse slash shop house, and one thing that I really love about the exterior for this build is actually the roof detail, which is actually a custom rotated version of the roof tile that came with Snowy Escape. Basically, you don't need any CC for that. I just rotated the roof tile that came with Snowy Escape using the tool mod, and I used them as additional roof accents, and honestly that little touch actually made a huge difference. Now just be warned, whenever you use tool, the tool mod actually doesn't work on Mount Komorebi just yet, which is why I had to rotate those roof tiles in another world and had to basically save them in a room so that I can use them in this build. If you want those roof tiles, by the way, they're actually available on my gallery. I will put a link to that in the description, or maybe in a pinned comment, but they've been there for like a couple of days now, maybe even a week, because I did finish this build a while back. Originally, I was planning to put this out sometime this weekend, but unfortunately I was way too busy doing some Christmas shopping because we're sending some stuff to our relatives in the country, so I didn't have much time to actually do some recording for the weekend. This is why this build is coming up on a weekday, which is honestly probably not the best timing considering this is an izakaya. You'd probably expect this to be maybe more of a weekend slash TGIF kind of build, but you know, it is what it is. I wanted to get this up as soon as I can, and this was the most complete build I've had, so hopefully you still enjoy it. And I'm pretty sure people still go on drinking parties or nomikai in the weekdays, right? So yeah. hopefully you'll still get some use out of this. But this build will require dine out because I did set it up as a restaurant. By default, the izakaya in Mount Komorebi is actually a bar, and I tried visiting it as a bar with my sim, and honestly it was so boring. Nothing interesting was happening. I much rather have this as a restaurant because at least your sim can be a little bit more involved. And also, the restaurants have the ability to actually customize the Sims' work outfits, and also the custom menu is so exciting. It's probably one of the things I'm most excited about in this build because when I was setting up the custom menu for this build, I saw all of the new Japanese food and it shocked me just how much Japanese food there is in game already. There's ramen, there's sushi, there's nigiri, there's sashimi, there's even yakisoba, which, oh my goodness, like, it's making me want to eat Japanese food. I love Japanese food, by the way, in case you guys haven't noticed yet. So this build only takes up half of the lot. The lot itself is the exact same lot as the one where the original izakaya was located, and for some reason it was just way too big for my liking, so I ended up filling up the rest of the space with the building shells that came with Snowy Escape, and thankfully we did get quite a lot of traditional looking Japanese houses as building shells, and that totally made my life easier for this. So for this build, I wanted it to feel like it had more of a local atmosphere, because there's many different kinds of izakaya. There's some really big ones that take up an entire building and can easily host maybe hundreds to thousands of people. This one, I wanted it to feel more local to Mount Komorebi. It's a local watering hole, basically. Not that different from an Irish pub, and I've often seen izakayas being compared to Irish pubs, and I feel like they have a similar purpose of people, you know, using it as kind of like a social gathering place and a hangout place. So that's definitely the vibe I wanted to go for. I did want to experiment with different layouts though, specifically different seating layouts, because I feel like with izakaya they do have a variety. So there's some bar seating, there's some tables, there's even like an elevated platform where Sims can sit on the floor. You'll see more of that later on. And definitely in the izakaya that I've been to, we definitely had the option to sit on the floor. We definitely had those kinds of seating as well. So I'm really surprised actually that they didn't utilize that in the pre-made izakaya in Mount Komorebi, because since, you know, platforms have been introduced, I thought that was a really good showcase of that new aspect of the game, and I'm kind of sad that they didn't do that in the pre-made izakaya, so hopefully this one compensates for that. I will say that I really like those tables that have the graffiti in them. It has those little stickers because it makes this feel like, you know, it's a part of the community and it feels very lived in. It feels like it has regulars, and I really like that vibe. For the ground floor, it's definitely more of a festive, casual atmosphere, because izakaya can also be a venue for like business meetings, more casual business meetings, I guess. In Japan, they call it nomikai, which is basically the practice of going out drinking with your office mates. And I saw that reference in the trailer for Snowy Escape actually, and I thought that was really interesting, and I definitely see some salarymen coming here to have the nomikai, so I feel like the upstairs is definitely more suited for that. Anyway, here I'm using these noren, which are basically these hanging pieces of fabric, and you see them a lot in Japanese community lots, so I feel like having them in all of the archways and on the windows and on the doors just gave this place more of a community lot vibe, which I really like. I also tried to make the ground floor feel really compact, because I feel like that's kind of what you would expect to experience in an izakaya. It's usually really cramped and crowded, and I love that though, because I just really like that whole vibe. Even though gameplay wise it's probably gonna be a nightmare to control all of the Sims. It's probably gonna be hard to see what's actually happening because I have play tested this many times just to make sure that everything's functional, and it does actually work, but the Sims do some really weird, bizarre things. Like, as per usual, they still do the dancing chairs thing, you know, even though the Sims are already sitting on the table. For some reason, they would get up for no particular reason and just go around in circles, and it's really annoying. It looks very unnatural, so let me just say it's probably gonna be a nightmare to film the house tour for this video because the Sims simply cannot cooperate. So that was a tangent right there, but you know what? While I'm at it, I might as well give you a little bit of an update on some of my other builds planned as well as my redesign Newcrest series. So as per your request, I am going to be recording my updating process for the Newcrest builds. I was planning on recording that process anyway. I just wanted to get your feedback, and I think most people want to see the updating process, so that means more Japanese builds, so hopefully you'll also check those out as well. And also I'm planning on doing another community lot for Mount Komorebi as well as a couple of other builds for this world, but I don't think I'm gonna finish building the entire world until maybe next year. I think maybe a couple more builds and then I'm ready to move on to Newcrest for some other builds, because I do have some builds for Newcrest that I would like to get out this December, so please keep an eye out on that as well. But yeah, we have a little bathroom area, nothing too crazy. I did notice that usually when it comes to these kinds of Japanese establishments, there would usually be a separate sink area, so I just put that there. And of course there's a little kitchen area as well, just to make this into a functional restaurant. This can also function as a bar. The only thing missing is a TV, so if you add a TV it'll work just fine as a bar. It really depends on what you feel like. And actually we're now working on the second floor, and this is where I incorporated the area where people can actually sit on the floor, which for me is kind of a staple when it comes to Japanese, you know, restaurants or izakaya. I think most of the ones that I've been to had some sort of zashiki, or basically the zashiki is kind of like this elevated wooden platform where people can sit on. It's really nice actually, it's really a casual vibe. And usually they're not made out of tatami, they're usually made out of wood, and usually the tables would come with little seats. I forgot what the seats were called, but it's basically a little cushion with a backrest. I don't know what those seats are called actually, but in this case I kind of just used some kotatsu because that's the only floor seating that we have. I have seen some people mention that they would have liked just a normal chair that is on the floor, and I actually kind of agree with that because I don't really want to have to look at a whole kotatsu if I want my sim to sit on the floor. So I feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity for that, since they've already had the animations for the sim sitting on the floor anyway. So yeah, kind of a bummer, but you know. Anyway, originally I used the dividers from university, but then I discovered these dividers from Snowy Escape, and I like them much more because they look like they're slightly folded in so that you can still see the rest of the, you know, dining area, but it also looks like you can fold them out if you want some privacy. So, you know, I really like that vibe. I also put in some hot pots on those kotatsu as well, because as far as I know, the Sims actually can't use the kotatsu to eat in the restaurant using the restaurant system. However, I did test this out and the Sim can actually have hot pot and they will pay for it. I love that because it just feels more immersive, and I'm really happy to see that even if I don't order anything from the restaurant, I can still have my Sim come here and eat. So if you can afford a kotatsu for your household, this is probably the perfect place to have some hot pot. And yeah, I'm just adding a little bit more seating over here upstairs. Like I said, this is where I imagine a more of a business environment, I guess. And I think that it is a nice contrast to the ground floor, which is a lot more festive and casual. And I think that's the point of an izakaya, right? You have, a variety of experiences, and regardless of what kind of activity you want, there's always something suited for your preferences, right? Which is always great. And I think at this point we're pretty much done furnishing the izakaya, so all I'm doing now is kind of just adding a little bit more decoration on the building next door, just to make this place look like it's an actual area where there's some sort of nightlife. So there's some outdoor seating. The izakaya itself also has some outdoor seating as well. I put some benches in there just outside the main bar area, right next to the river actually. I thought that was a really great place to have that seating area. So that's that. And there's also some vending machines as well. Can't forget those because of course with the Japanese builds you always have to have vending machines. But yeah, it looks like that's actually going to be it for this build. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and please stay tuned. I'm really excited to show you my next build because it's kind of a really fun one, so please watch out for that as well. Other than that, I think I'm gonna go now. Thank you so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.